extra quick, just to make you work for it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Krista Holloman, a digital reporter here at News 10. We're going to take you to Lansing, where Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel is giving an update on an organized retail crime investigation. James Christian, global investigator for Walmart. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And Eric Sturbus, who is our Assistant Attorney General assigned to our organized retail crime unit. So today I'm pleased to announce that the efforts of my newly formed Organized Retail Crime Unit, or FORCE team, which is comprised of members of the Department of Attorney General and Michigan State Police. We're here to announce our first major case. On Wednesday, 24th, 2023, special agents and detectives from FORCE, in conjunction with the Office of the Inspector General, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Federal Bureau of Investigation, U.S. Border Patrol, and the Canton Police Department executed search warrants at 8 different locations in Metro Detroit, leading to the arrest of 3 individuals involved in a substantial food stamp fraud ring. I'd like to give special thanks to the Michigan State Police for their efforts in making last Wednesday's law enforcement operation a great success. And I'd also like to express my sincere appreciation to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and Walmart Corporation for their participation in this lengthy investigation. As such, last Friday morning, 3 individuals associated with this criminal organization were arraigned on felony charges, including conducting a criminal enterprise and multiple counts of food stamp fraud. They are Travis Newby, age 39, Darian Williams, age 23, and Vanessa Williams, age 47. The matter is still ongoing, and we fully anticipate naming new defendants as this investigation continues. And to provide some background, beginning last year, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, along with Sam's Club Global Security, began noticing large amounts of EBT purchases being made from several Detroit area Sam's Club stores and referred the matter to our office. Shortly thereafter, the Michigan Attorney General FORCE team began their investigation. And with the assistance of Walmart Corporate Security, it was determined that several individuals were entering Detroit area Sam's Clubs and making purchases with fraudulent EBT cards. It was discovered that a majority of the nearly 8,000 EBT card holders whose accounts were fraudulently compromised reside in the state of California. To date, approximately $4 million worth of purchases have been linked to the fraudulent use of EBT cards at Detroit area's Sam's Club's locations. This is the first of what we believe will be many to come large-scale criminal enterprises that will be brought to justice as a result of my ORC unit. The FORCE team was formed by my office to focus on criminal organizations that target retailers by stealing product that eventually is repackaged and sent back into commerce for profit. This unit is the first of its kind in the nation, and I anticipate that other states will soon follow Michigan's lead. Our team is unique in 3 ways. First, we have 2 placed assistant attorneys general on the team full-time who work closely with my special agents and MSP detectives to fully investigate and prosecute these types of cases. Second, we are housed within the Michigan State Police Department, which allows for all statewide resources and logistical support that are needed for these types of investigations. And lastly, the team is dedicated to working collaboratively with private retailers and local law enforcement agencies in an effort to stop this kind of organized crime from flourishing in Michigan. As we know and see in this case, organized retail fraud often crosses state borders. and it is a large problem all across the nation. Retail fraud costs retailers approximately $45 billion in losses annually nationwide and over $1 billion in Michigan alone. Let today's announcement serve as a warning for anyone attempting to commit these crimes in Michigan. We are partnering with businesses and law enforcement in every corner of this state and will hold people who commit these crimes accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Now, we anticipate that through these prosecutions and criminal asset forfeiture, that this unit will be self-funding within only a few years of operation. And finally, I'd like to thank the many retailers that operate in Michigan for their support and their cooperation in these efforts. The success of this unit is driven by the private-public partnerships that we're able to build upon to hold these bad actors accountable, to drive down retail fraud losses for Michigan, and ultimately to save consumers money. And at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Detective First Lieutenant Steve Tomelko from Michigan State Police.
Thank you, ma'am.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. The Michigan State Police is thankful for our partnership with Attorney General Nessel and her committed ability to create this task force that allows us to tackle organized retail crime. From a law enforcement perspective, organized retail crime crosses multiple jurisdictions. It makes these types of crimes difficult to investigate and complex. The creation of this force team allows us to remove those jurisdictional barriers and aggressively investigate these crimes to a successful conclusion. The team's success is only going to increase, and that is greatly in part to our partnerships involving multiple levels from the start of the investigation. We're excited to see where this goes, and again, we're thankful for the Attorney General's commitment to combat organized retail crime. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Do you want to say anything? Sure?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for being here, and if anybody has any questions at this time, we'd be happy to answer those to the extent that we can, understanding, of course, that this is an ongoing investigation.
You said this case obviously touches California. Is this something that you had seen in other states as well that have been doing something similar to this, that you decided to start this organization here in Michigan?
Well, let me say this generally speaking about organized retail crime. What happens in Michigan doesn't tend to stay in Michigan. And what we see more often than not in these types of cases is that you will have oftentimes victims over multiple states, but also that the merchandise travels and might end up, might begin in Michigan, might go to another state. Oftentimes, of course, will end up being sold online, which of course can happen anywhere. But I would say that in the cases I've seen, it's more typical than not that you see multiple jurisdictions and multiple different states. And that's why I've really worked hard to form partnerships with attorneys general in states all across the country so that it's understood that we're working together, because what we anticipate is going to happen in most of our cases is we're going to, see a circumstance where we see wide-scale theft in areas of Michigan, and then we're going to have to execute search warrants in other states. But Eric, is there anything more you wanted to add to that?
As far as this crime in particular, there was nothing I could say that we know of a certain connection between the state of Michigan and the state of California, other than EBT cards being compromised in that state and being used in Michigan. It's possible that during the course of this investigation, as it is ongoing, that we will be able to kind of connect the dots and answer why is it that an out-of-state card was used in Michigan as opposed to more Michigan cards or Ohio cards. But it is an ongoing investigation, and it's possible that we'll be able to answer that question in the future. Was it just California cards at that point? No, it was not. It was Washington, it was Michigan, it was California. Those are just 3 states that I'm mentioning. There are others, but those are the big ones.
Attorney General, you described this as a substantial food stamp ring. Can you provide any additional details on how these individuals were operating as a ring?
Right. I'll let you take that, Eric.
Well, ring is a fancy word for an organization, a group that works together to commit a crime such as what we have here. The three individuals that Attorney General Nessel mentioned that were charged are a part of that ring. We do expect that there may be more and will be more involved, but as we've indicated, it's an ongoing investigation, and time will tell as far as where it takes us.
If I can just follow up on that, just generally speaking in these types of cases, of course, these are multi-layered criminal enterprises. And, you start with the boosters who are on the ground level, who are typically the ones that are committing this wide-scale theft. And then you move up to the fencers who, are actually selling the goods, oftentimes online. Or they could be, pop-up stores or even out of, the trunk of a van, various other places. But it's not usually just, a handful of people. We're talking about a lot of different people that are involved in any of these activities. And again, multiple layers of people. So when you talk about organized retail fraud, and you compare it to anything that allows us to charge under a continuing criminal enterprise, it's because it truly is a criminal enterprise. And again, there's multiple layers of it. I don't know if that helps.
I don't know if you can speak to this. The thing that maybe tipped you off, was it something that was illegal to be purchased with an EBT card versus something that is normally purchased with an EBT card?
Well, it was merchandise. And obviously, as you may know, that there are certain things that can only be purchased with an EBT card versus, let's say, cash or a normal credit card. So what we're dealing with here is merchandise that can only be purchased with an EBT card. Or not only an EBT card, but can be purchased with an EBT card.
Attorney General, in this case, you guys got a tip that allowed you to begin the investigation, but I got to imagine that maybe some of these are a little bit more difficult to investigate and prosecute. So, just wondering, how does the team view this one? Was that tip helpful to you guys, and how do you guys do other kinds of investigations of this kind?
There was a police agency that did lead us to this ring, this theft ring, and luckily for the team that Attorney General Nessel had assembled, our team was able to run with that tip and use the contacts that they were able to obtain in the decades of law enforcement experience that they have in order to kind of run with that tip and make it fruitful. But enough can't be said for the partnership that Walmart Corporation has had with our team, with the Michigan State Police, with the Attorney General's force team, in helping kind of get to where we are today, which is announcing charges.
Can you say how they're getting the cards and how those who actually own the cards can protect themselves?
Well, what I can say is this. Cards, this is, an investigation that is continuing, and we'll be able to kind of figure out more answers to those questions as we go on. But typically in crimes like this, there are devices out there that we can refer to as skimming machines, which enable, a fraudster to kind of access the information of a food stamp recipient by way of information that's available on the internet or the dark web. And that information is for sale to those that are willing and have the know-how and able to obtain it and pay for it. They can transfer that information that's available on the internet to a piece of plastic and then go into stores such as Walmart or anywhere else and commit the fraud at a mass scale level just by the simple reprinting or reprogramming of someone else's information on a card. As far as how, to answer your question, how could one protect themselves? Well, I could say we've seen this in the private sector just with our own personal transaction devices and, you know, what you would typically see at a store, chips being put in the cards, touch screen devices that are used on payment apparatuses. Those are security measures. I'm not sure that the devices in which these food stamp recipients used their card, that card had a chip or that protective device in it to allow it, you know, not to be compromised as easily.
In this particular case that we're talking about, how much time behind bars will these individuals potentially face?
I'll just say that, you know, we worked hard with the legislature and to ensure that retail fraud could be considered a predicate offense for a CCE charge, a continuing criminal enterprise charge, and that is a 20-year felony. It's a serious felony. Now, you know, what our plan was, and let me say this, obviously this is coming at the beginning of the Mackinac Policy Conference, and I will tell you, last year I remember working really hard to talk to retailers to, you know, convince them of the necessity of having a task force, a specialized task force like this. I want to give a little bit of credit to my chief deputy, Fadwa Hamoud, who actually had the very first of its kind organized retail crime unit that in Michigan that was located in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. They had more limited resources than what we have here in the state. But she spent the last 4 years talking about the great significance of these types of cases. And what we saw, and I will say, you know, for her experiences in Wayne County, were stores that were shutting down all over the place in the city of Detroit because they just couldn't afford to stay open because of the massive theft. So it was so injurious to consumers. And so we felt the need to firstly work with the legislature to make sure that we could be charging these aren't regular retail fraud cases. Just a regular shoplifting case, you know, it starts off as, you know, a 93-day misdemeanor. It can go up to, you know, a year, or depending on the amount that's stolen, you know, a low-level felony. But these aren't low-level felonies. Again, you know, we are talking about not, you know, hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, but we're talking about millions of dollars in losses at a time. And so that's why we worked really hard with the legislature to amend the CCE Act and to make this a 20-year felony. Now, theoretically, the way we would like to see this work, and it's not going to work like this in all cases, but what we're hoping to accomplish is some of these lower-level boosters, you know, many of them, honestly, are people who are suffering from drug addiction and oftentimes are actually paid in drugs for their work. That happens in some cases, not in all cases. But, you know, our goal is for these lower-level offenders, you know, if they're cooperative with us, you know, we'd like to see them get treatment in exchange, of course, for their testimony as to the fencers who are, in my mind, much more culpable and really sort of, I would say, the brains of these operations. But that being the case, you know, we thought that these crimes were serious enough in nature that they needed to be treated very seriously. And so people who are charged with continuing a criminal enterprise oftentimes are eligible for, you know, not just probation or jail time, but for prison time. These are serious cases, and they impact, as in this case, a wide array of people who can sometimes least afford to be taken advantage of.
A clarifying question. You said $4 million in fraudulent purchases. The $4 million, is that all to this ring of 3 individuals, or is that just all the fraudulent purchases across this?
That is fraud determined to be out-of-state EBT purchases associated with Detroit area Walmarts. Whether that's all contributed to the individuals that Attorney General Nessel announced today, we don't believe so. There are we believe, others out there still, which is why it's an ongoing investigation. And hopefully, in the course of time, we'll have a fuller picture of everyone involved.
Can you attribute a number to these 3 individuals?
We probably could attribute a number that I'm not prepared to give you that number right now, but we could probably put out a number that we reasonably believe that this group is attributed to.
I realize this is premature based on your continuous comment about it being an ongoing investigation, but have you preliminarily at least identified how many states or how many individuals might be involved? Like, you keep saying it's a big ring, but how big? Because 3's not big to me.
We believe it's 10 or more people.
And do you know how many states approximately?
Well, when you say states, primarily we believe these individuals to be focused in Michigan. However, the victims, those whose credit cards or EBT cards were compromised, were in the other states. But as far as the criminal element of this organization, we believe to be focused in Michigan.
Approximately, how long has this been going on in our state?
This started in the end of 2022, beginning of this year, is when Walmart came with their information to assist us in developing this case, and we believe that it began in the end of last year, beginning of this year.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for participating today, and much appreciated. And when it comes to our organized retail crime task force, I think you're going to see a lot more to come from us here. Just in the coming months, we have how many ongoing investigations?
There's 8 to 12 ongoing investigations.
Okay, 8 to 12 ongoing investigations. So I think we're going to see a lot more cases coming, a lot more charges, and my hope is that those of you in the media who are here today will get this information out there, because we want these criminal syndicates to know this. We're coming for them. We are. This has been permitted to go on for far too long. It's affected far too many people. And we're going to make sure that those who are involved in these types of criminal activities are held accountable. So thank you for being here. And thank you for the great team from my department, from MSP, DHHS, Walmart, and everybody else who participated in this. I want to give you my thanks and my gratitude for your cooperation on this case and the many cases that we'll be working on to come. Thanks, everybody.
All right, as you heard there, several people have been charged with organized retail crime by using stolen EBT cards at several Metro Detroit area, Sam's Club locations. We're going to have more on this coming up in just a little bit on News 10 Today at 11, so we hope to see you then.